Hey, what's up, my friends? This is David Wood, and I just wanted to do a video. I was going to do this live, and YouTube updated their subscriber requirements to where you got to have 1,000 subscribers to do, live streaming. So I don't meet the eligibility requirements yet. So I got to go get some subscribers. It's been something I've been meaning to do for a while. This is just like, promote my channel a little bit, but I've not been bothering. So if you're new seeing this video or whatever, you can just hit like on the channel. Maybe I'll write an ad to that or something like that. You get a bunch of likes or subscribes. To my YouTube channel or whatever. Just click the link of the video and then hit subscribe or whatever. You know what I mean? So in any case, let me explain the way of peace and harmony. So the title of this video is the way of peace and harmony between peoples, nations, kindreds, tongues, kingdoms, things like that, empires, it doesn't matter, right? And the way, the peace and harmony between states, peace and harmony between the people and the environment, the way of peace and harmony. What's the way of peace and harmony? The way of peace and harmony is collapsing duality into oneness. That's what it is. That is the way of peace and harmony, period. It's collapsing duality into oneness. Now, how do you collapse duality into oneness? You collapse duality into oneness. Let me explain what it is in the brain, actually. People are like, well, what's enlightenment in the brain? People ask me these questions and stuff like that. So what enlightenment is in the brain is, enlightenment is the collapse of duality. Duality comes from multiple places. For example, the left and right hemispheres of the brain. Duality can be collapsed into oneness by building stronger connections in that part in the center of the brain, which you could do through meditation. You could do through, for example, practicing writing with your right hand, practicing writing with your left hand. You write with your right and then trace over it with your left, and then you do vice versa. Like you take the Torah, which is what I like to do, and then you just write a chapter a day with one hand and then trace over it with your left hand, and then this teaches your brain on this side to mimic that side, and that produces oneness in the brain. For example, I did that for a long time, and then when I started playing guitar again, I used to not be able to play guitar and sing, and I just instantly could play guitar and sing because the connection is so strong in between the hemispheres of my brain because of all these exercises I've been doing. So that's an example of creating oneness in the brain. That'd be left and right hemisphere. Another thing would be the conscious and the unconscious. The conscious and the unconscious mind collapsing into oneness. So when somebody goes through enlightenment, obviously, their unconscious mind collapses into their conscious mind, which can create all sorts of various problems in their life for a little while until they get used to the energy, of the enlightenment. You know what I mean? It's a very different energy to learn to deal with. And so if somebody hasn't meditated for 10 years and they just go through enlightenment very quickly, like I teach people to do, then what happens is that they go through this enlightenment, right? They go through this enlightenment period, and then there's karmic whiplash. Sometimes it can happen and things like this, but their duality's collapsing to oneness is really what's going on. And the better I get at leading people to enlightenment, the less karmic backlash there's going to be, because I'll figure out step by step how to do that, right? So that would be another example of creating oneness, learning, to take a group and manifest what they want from the group rather than just, having the karmic backlash or whatever from, past lives or whatever, because that speeds up when you go through enlightenment. So enlightenment is an example of creating peace and harmony. And what does duality do practically in the world? Well, what duality does in the world is it creates things. For example, what's the best example of duality we got in America? Democrats and the Republicans is really, you could say that. You could also say, masculinity and femininity would be a wonderful example of duality. Yin yang and stuff like that. Really, they should dance with each other in one energy is what they should do, which is what happens when you make love or whatever. Making love is obviously a very enlightened thing to do when you're with your sacred partner or whatever, you're making love to them. And so, love making, for example, people associate, generally positive things to that. And that's what we need to do with duality. We need to collapse it into oneness, like love making of spiritual energy. So, for example, you've got another example of duality. So now I've talked about internal, now let's talk about external. So an external example of duality would be what? This would be the Democrats versus Republicans, the Christians versus the Islamic people, or not really. There's not really. That doesn't really. It's not so much. But if you have, for example, Israel versus Islam, now all of a sudden you've got this major long issue. Or you've got, check this out, blacks versus whites, the racist stuff. You know what I mean? That's an example of duality. What's another example of duality? Another example of duality is, I've given enough examples of duality. I don't need to keep doing it. So what do you do? Well, rather than doing what just you want, which is what generally we do, I've gotten feedback, today from 2 different people about some things that is an example of my brain creating, lingering duality and stuff like that, and or not, really it's my brain learning how to do something. This is an example of duality in my life that manifested for a very long time, and me not really learning to listen to people. So, for example, I never grew up learning to listening because I never trained my brain right. So when I was a kid, that resulted in ADD. It was my own thing. And then the ADD, of course, of people that struggle with attention, their whole lives, what happens to them, right? Well, what happens to them is all of a sudden they can't listen because they can't pay attention. And all of a sudden they can't do math because they can't pay attention. And all of a sudden they can't go, do this and this because the attention systems were never really built. And it's very easy over a long period of time to rebuild out somebody's attention system so they actually don't have these problems anymore. But you have to understand how to regrow neurology at a very late age and stuff like this, and you can heal that from the brain. But, so I have this feedback, and it's like you need to listen, to us on, what we're trying to tell you, and I've been trying to tell you this for a very long time, somebody told me. And, I look at that and I'm like, okay, she's trying to tell me something, and there's something that I'm not listening to. So I need to listen to something that this person is saying, this friend is saying. And I need to listen to the same thing somebody else told me, funny enough, that I just met a little while ago. And so, we get feedback from enough places, and then what happens is that you have to make a change, right? And the universe does this to people, but people don't notice it most of the time, right? Now, that's something that probably a lot of people would notice because they're getting feedback from 2 different sources. It's like God's trying to tell you something. But a lot of times feedback is micro-feedback. For example, somebody loses a job, and then they lose another job, and then they lose another job for the same thing. Some people would notice that, and some people would blame the place that gave them the job, right? Is what they would do. So we got to notice what the other people want in order to collapse duality into oneness. For example, you're in a relationship or whatever, and what do women want generally? Women want space. Women want time to themselves. Women want to go on dates. Women want to feel loved, right? But women can't really feel loved if they don't really have space. All women are like that. I've never met a woman who's not like that, that I've really known well. You know what I mean? It's to a lesser extent with some and to a greater extent with others, but it's just like, it's a natural thing for women, for example. They'll get more horny if they have more space, is what they'll do, right? And so, what do men want? They want sex, and then what do women do? Well, women, they stop having sex with their man after a while as much as they used to, and then what does that do to them? Because they feel safe. But they're also not getting space, and they're also kind of like losing their attraction is what's going on. So people then, they say things like, relationships change over time, which is true in a positive way. But the reality is that if relationships don't keep having sex like all the time, they fall to pieces. That's and this is from both parties. This happens. They need to have sex all the time or they fall to pieces. This is what it's the most positive anchor that relationships has, and you want to have as many times as that anchor is fired off as possible, it's just what it is. So people need to have lots of sex, and women need it and men need it, but men need it more than women need it, right? So for example, I've mentioned this many times. I believe that modern relationships are somewhat unnatural. And you say, why? Well, because men are designed to be with more than one woman. You know what I mean? It's the way that it is. And I've mentioned that. And you, regardless of whether you agree with my philosophy that that's what society should do, they should be at least open to it and leave people alone if they want to do it. And I think that's more of the solution because not everybody wants that, right? The reality is that men are built in particular, and I know men more than I know women because, of course, I'm a man. I know women quite well, more than most. More than a lot of people anyways. I know women quite well. I understand their psychology, understand their biology, understand their heart. You know what I mean? Quite well. And the reality is that, you know, women need space and men need sex. So these two things, they sometimes conflict. This is an example of duality in society, right? It's like men want lots of sex, they want sex like they did before, and women don't want it anymore, right? So in ancient society, they would have just had more than one woman, right? But that's one example of duality. And people might not like that part of the video, and they might like the rest of the parts of the video, but this is what duality does. It makes you like one thing and not like another. When really, it's fine to like both. It's fine to like Christianity and like Islam. It's fine, even if you don't believe it. There's great things in the Quran, and there's great things in the Bible. It's fine to love Judaism and love Christianity. It's fine to love Mormonism and love Christianity. It's fine to love people regardless of what their choices are, regardless of what their sexual preferences are. I've had a bunch of people, they see my stuff and they're like, this guy hates queers, I've had people say things like that to me, so excuse the language if they don't, they think that's funny, but no, I don't, it's misunderstanding. Maybe I don't convey my message well. I'm just trying to warn people. I love people, the way they are, regardless of their sexual preferences, regardless of their choices. I just love people, and I love them and love them and love them and love them. And sometimes, there's that book, The 5 Love Languages. So sometimes I don't express that love in the right way. And I'm very emotional. And somebody replayed an audio for me the other day. That's a good friend of mine. I won't mention his name. And he plays this audio, and one of the things, it's like, you shouldn't do videos when you're mad or whatever. But I said that, about myself. I was like, this is what I do, is I give value over a long time and blah 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 blah. Anyway, so I do this, and then of course I make mistakes, and I did a video the other day where I was a little bit mad, and then I took it down, and I was like, I need to not make it. Wasn't like my old stuff though, you know what I mean? It was more tasteful, but also distasteful. I just think that it's better to come from a clean emotional state, and I thought my emotional state was clean when I started that video, and it turned out not so. as I was making it, so then I thought about it, and then I took it down because I was even worked up for like 30 minutes after the video. So I was like, yeah, I shouldn't do videos like that. But this is an example of creating peace. It's like creating peace in your own heart. Creating peace with yourself starts first. So first you create peace in your own heart, you create peace in yourself. And then as you create peace in your own self and you create peace in your own heart, then you can bring the peace that you have to the world, right? You have the world, right? You like that message? That's a good message, right? I don't need to talk about Jesus or religion to mix it in with peace. I don't need to. But it's also important to understand there's various religions. And they all have different beliefs. And this is what society is really all about. It's about all these different beliefs coming together, and all these different beliefs creating oneness, and then being in harmony. Like, let me tell you what I love about St. George, Utah, okay? Let me see what happens here. All right. St. George, Utah checks out. Work better on my other camera or whatever. St. George, Utah is very in tune with the environment, actually. The buildings, they have to kind of, like, soak in with the environment, you know what I mean? They gotta, like, you see this, they got this mountain back here, and then these buildings are like part of the scenery. You know what I mean? And then, like, no building is allowed to be taller, for example, than the temple. You got the temple over there. I have to walk over to it, and my feet are a little bit hurt because it's like hot as heck outside, and I'm barefoot. They'll get used to it. And yeah, so you got the temple over there, right? So no building is allowed to be taller than that, so then everybody can see the environment. Because the problem with modern cities in general is, and this is fine in context, you know what I mean, if you want to go to a city and you want to do that, but like modern cities, they block out nature, don't they? So, this is a very modern city too, and it doesn't block out nature. Actually, I've seen several cities like that. I think that it's also like that in, for example, most of Colombia, I think, is like that, like Medellin, anyway, I think it's like that. I think there's other cities. So this would be an example of, one group likes the city and one groups like the country, then they mix it together in a way where everybody gets what they want. So you have, I've talked about this in my last videos and stuff like that, and here's what I know. I know that if I can figure out how to get in front of people, which has not been very easy for me for the last, little bit, and it's been my own doing. But when I figure out how to get in front of people, I can win the elections. We'll say this. If I get in front of people, I'll win. Because my ideas are so much better than everybody's. It's better than everyone's. Right? And the reason is because they're everyone's ideas. That's what they are. My ideas are everyone's ideas. So all the things that everybody ever want, you just give it to them all. You know, there's this old saying that says you can't have your cake and eat it too. But the reality is why not? Why can't you have a cake? And in fact, you can't have a cake without eating it. That's what I used to say in Power Network. You can't have a cake without eating it. And here's what I know. I know when I get in front of people, I'm a million times better with people now than I used to be. That's what I know. Like, I'm a million times better. But I got to have the energy of the crowd to be able to do that. You know, I had some feedback the other day. He's like, you used to be better at communicating than you are now. I was like, well, it took me a while to heal my brain. My brain's healed. And I disagree with that because if I get in front of people, I'll be a million times better now than I used to be. Because I'm a group guy. You know what I mean? So I've been, in the last, year, kind of isolated because of, I'd say my own karma, and I'd say just I caused it. And then I'd say other people also, they caused it because, they're running away from my spiritual change or whatever. And I should have just gotten a new crowd. The reality is you get in front of people and you share your vision, and then it happens. That's what happens. Your vision happens when you share your vision and you get in front of people. It happens. Your vision happens. This is how visions actually happen. Visions happen by getting in front of people and sharing your vision and doing it in the most attractive way that you can. So, for example, I had a video, feedback on my video the other day. Is like, your beard's like a little ugly, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, I've never had a beard. Actually what happened with my beard is we lost our shaver and we've been trying to find it. And I was like, I'll just grow a beard, right? So I have like this sloppy kind. It's like slop everywhere and stuff like that. So I don't know how long I'm going to keep it going on, but I actually kind of like it. I think it's kind of cute, you know what I mean? I'm like, you're like, at least somebody thinks it's cute, you know what I mean? But in any case, I feel a little happier with the beard, you know what I mean? And so, in any case, I'm probably going to take off here in a minute because I've got a list of stuff to do. And so what I'm doing is I'm making my list now of stuff and I'm memorizing them, using mnemonics, which makes me get a million times more done than I used to get done. And what's up, dude? Anyway, so yeah, that's example of how to create peace. So how do you manifest that on a national level? Well, let me give you I'll say this once in the videos, right? You got these people, for example, they want gay marriage, right? And this is going to be a controversial idea, for example. But this is an example of just something off the top of my head. And then you got the Christian group who all say pretty much that marriage is between a man and a woman. That's not what it is. This is not marriage. Marriage is between a man and a woman, right? So why don't they call it something else? You know what I mean? They don't have to call it marriage. They can call it something cool. They can come up with a word for it. Because it's not really marriage. It's they can't have children. That's my opinion on it. That's my personal spiritual opinion on it, is they can't have children. It's not marriage. It's not what it is. Why don't they call it something that is not marriage? And then nobody cares. Look, nobody cares that they're doing it. Well, we care, but we wish they didn't do it. But my point is, nobody's going to interfere with it if they just call it something else. You know what I mean? Then you've got, because it's not what it is. It's something else, right? You say, well, but this is my husband and I'm a man. What, are you the wife? I mean, it's not a marriage. It's not got the two parts of energy to it. It's something different. Call it something else. See, if you call it something else, nobody cares what you do or how much you do it. Go for it. Just call it something else. You know what I mean? I've jokingly said it should be called anti-marriage, but that's not probably going to be the most popular idea. They could call it something cool, like, the super gay union. I mean, whatever they call it something else. So that's an example of just coming up with an idea off the top of my head that gives both people what they want. And then the churches, they're fine, and then you don't have some part of society trying to force the other part of society to do what they want. But they still can have the same benefits or whatever, or similar benefits or whatever. I mean, Stop trying to force people to do what you want. And this is true for everything, right? Like, I've talked about this before. Like, for example, the Quran, it says that if you're a Jew, you should get a tattoo of the Star of David on your heart and walk on the other side of the street, which I think is if you're a man or something like that. I have to check it out. I'm getting a spit booger, so I need to go get some water here soon. But it's like, people look at that and they're like, that's anti-Semitic or whatever. And then the Torah, the problem is the Torah, it says that thou shalt not create markings on the skin or something like that. I have to look it up, or cuttings on the skin or whatever. So then you'd have to do it in a way that was in alignment with the Torah, for example, or like a henna tattoo or something. But now, here's the thing. Is it against the Torah to get a Star of David tattoo on your heart and walk on the other side of the street to create peace between nations? No, it's not. So my point is, if they did it, the fighting would just stop. Like, it would be like that fast. You know what I mean? Like, people would just stop fighting because they'd be like, they're doing what we want. It's like they'd leave each other alone. It doesn't mean that you believe in the Quran or anything like that, or it just you're saying, here, check this out, and then they're like, that's one smart Jew. That's what they think. That's what they think. So like, you got all this duality going on in society, and I'm about done with this video because I got to get on the next step of my plan, which is working on my system, sell my books, and then I'm gonna go to town. And that's probably gonna take me. I'll probably just spend an hour on the system. Because I'm done with the initial system, I need the upsells, so I'm working on the upsells. I did the videos the other day. So my point is with this, okay, is like, the way of life and liberty it's the way of peace. It's the way of harmony. It's the way of righteousness. And righteousness is honoring your spirituality, is what it is. So everybody's like, for example, this is an example of duality in society. And I created this earlier because I'm like, everybody should follow the Torah, which I actually think is true. Because I think it would benefit them. And I think everyone would be happier. Everyone. I think there's no people that wouldn't be happier if they did that. The reality is, though, is that if I tried to force that on people, and this is what I came up with, the Torah, I promise, is kept in heaven forever and ever and ever and ever. It's kept. There's all sorts of references to it. So, and then there's a higher law because it's like they're in heaven. You know what I mean? There's nobody's going to do any of that stuff anyway. But there's other things that they need to do, like create peace and harmony in their environment. They still need to do that in heaven. I mean, they still need to pay attention to the stars. They still need they still do the festivals and stuff like that forever and ever and ever and ever. They do it, right? And it's eternal. It's an eternal thing. And so here's the thing: like, if I tried to force that on people would be what they call me, a dictator, because I'm forcing them to do what I want. Which I'm never going to be a dictator. I think dictators are idiots. Oh, what I've always thought. You know what I mean? And so, what do? You decentralize the legal system. And you separate kingdom law from national law. Then all of a sudden the Jewish nation can follow the Torah and the Islamic nation can follow the Quran with their own peoples. Then if you sue somebody, you take it to the court like normal, and then they look up that person's legal system. And then what do? The people get tried in front of the rabbis, or they get tried in front of the judge, depending on what legal system. This decentralizes the control system because there's no way I'd ever opt for anything but the Torah. It's more simple. You resolve things yourself. If you don't follow the law, if you follow the laws, there's nothing to get sued for. There's nothing. Somebody would have to accuse you of stealing, and then you just, like, like a thief, for example, in the Torah, what do? They have to create restitution. There's no jail. They have to create restitution, which is more miserable than jail because you got to work with your hard-earned money for a while to pay that back sometimes. Right? You can't smoke weed in the Torah. There's no, you can't take magic mushrooms or whatever you want to take. Yeah, rape and incest, they're against the Torah. Pretty brutal punishments. But guess what? If somebody doesn't want to follow those systems, then they don't opt to follow in that system. Once they opt in, though, that's their choice. And they can't just choose to withdraw from it because they don't like the punishment from something they did. Then all of a sudden, you're giving society what they want. Any case, I'm done. Give people what they want, and we're going to create a peaceful and righteous society. And I'll try to avoid doing, videos when I'm eating. It's really not a good idea. I've learned that many times. It's very, very, very much not a good idea. But, it is what it is. Now, I took that one down because I'm like, I don't want people seeing this, It's like, I was mad about something. It was like, I don't want people seeing that crap. So anyways, I'll just handle that on my own, in my own heart, or whatever. Now, here's the thing. What's the karma if we don't create peace? I'll end with this. And then I'll create, if we do, what's the karma? Well, if we don't create peace, the karma is the utter collapse of society all over the world, falling into the hands of the worst enemy anybody could imagine. That's the karma. I mean, this stuff's been prophesied about for a long time, right? And this is part of society waking up and getting rid of dark energy in society is what's happened. That's what causes the Great Tribulation. I've mentioned this many times, is the 144,000 in their righteousness kicking Satan's ass out of humanity, and on his way out, he manifests a lot, right? Because he's pissed. That's what causes it, right? So, it is what it is. Oh, by the way, check out the site. I got the kingdomelohim.org. And I'm working on this now. I'm not done with the system or anything like that, but I'm putting it out there. I've gotten some people that are chomping at it. So, it's a good thing. And then I've got to make some funnels and stuff that convert to different audiences and whatever. And I'm going to keep working on this thing until it's cranking. So, I'll save, really what it is and the vision for it till I can make a sales video that makes sense, which will probably take me a week or something like that. But not right now. I'll probably do it in like 2 weeks or something like that. It'll probably take me to make that one. But I got to go see some tests and customers and stuff like that, and then I'll go make a sales video that'll get a bunch of people in. So, my point with this, with all this stuff that I'm saying, is if what you really want is to create community with people, like we all do, what's the positive karma for resolving this? Positive karma is beautiful. The positive karma is we create a society where it's so peaceful that the animals come out and just hang out with people, even the vicious ones. Because they're in love with humans. Because the fear in their heart is gone. The positive karma for doing the right thing is all the kids in the world get fed. No more starving kids, no more kids dying of preventable diseases anywhere in the world. The positive karma of doing the right thing and helping everybody get what they want is you get to do what you want and prosper in it. Or not prosper in it. You're free to prosper and you're free to not. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is the air will be so clean again that nobody gets sick. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is rivers that are so pure you can take a cup and you can drink from it. All over the world. The positive karma of helping everybody get what they want is we create a society where kids are safe again in the streets. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is you get to live in cities that smell good. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want. No more factory farms, no more mistreated animals. We all participate together. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is there going to be no taxes. No income tax. Zero. We don't need it. We can get rid of it. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want, the kingdomelohim.org, is all of a sudden, nobody's talking about hate and all the hate. But they can if they want, because the hate's gone. Don't need it. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is you get to feel loved again by society. You get to feel loved again by your friends. You get to feel loved again by all the people around you. You get to feel passionate again about what you want. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want is feeling good and making a difference and contributing to the world in a new way. The positive karma of giving everyone what they want, they're just going to be more righteous because they're just going to want to. Because they're sick of the anger. They're sick of the bullshit. They're sick of the blame. They're sick of the poverty. So they just destroy it. They destroy it in their hearts. They destroy it in their minds, and they replace it with love. The positive side about giving everyone what they want is you create a society that's checked and balanced in a way where it's just impossible to get away with crime because the people are enforcing it. That's what happens when the people enforce the laws and we're not dependent on the police. Now the police need to participate in society too, right? When the people are enforcing the laws, we don't even need police. Eventually. But I still think that they're a good idea. We wouldn't need them. Police were a new idea in the last 200 years. Why? Because the people enforced the laws. They weren't wussies. The positive side of giving people what they want is peace and harmony between nations, between kingdoms, between peoples, between cities, between states, between children and fathers and mothers and husbands. That's the positive side of giving everyone what they want. Doesn't it feel good to be alive? So the kingdomelohim.org is about creating that. Click on the link below. First book putting out is a warning book, because I think it's very important to get the warning in people's hands. And then we don't need so many warnings after that. Just about the future, about the vision, about what we're going to create together. Filling the earth with the knowledge of the Lord as the waters cover the sea. That's what it's all about. What are you all about?